You were never lost. You were hidden. You are not here by accident. Right now, in this exact moment, something inside you recognized this. Before your mind had a chance to analyze, before logic could intervene, something deeper, something ancient in you said, "Yes, this is for me." That recognition? That is not curiosity. That is memory. And today, we are going to remember together. Most people move through their entire lives feeling a quiet, persistent ache, a sense that something essential is missing. They chase success, they build relationships, they accumulate experiences. And yet, in the silence between moments, in that space just before sleep or just after waking, there is a whisper they cannot quite hear, a name they cannot quite remember, their own. What if I told you that who you believe yourself to be, your name, your history, your fears, your limitations, is not your true identity? What if the person you call me is merely a costume, a character your soul agreed to wear for this particular chapter of an infinitely longer story? What if the real you, the eternal, luminous, sovereign being that you actually are, is not lost, not broken, not absent, but simply recalled? Pulled back behind a veil that was placed there deliberately by forces both internal and ancient for reasons you are finally old enough to understand? This is not metaphor. This is not spiritual poetry designed to make you feel temporarily inspired. What I am about to share with you is a precise, ancient, and until recently suppressed technique, a practice that has been carried in fragments across Hermetic mystery schools, Sufi lodges, Tibetan dream yoga lineages, and certain traditions of Kabbalistic inner work, a technique designed to do one specific thing: to call your soul back to full wakefulness inside this body, in this lifetime, right now. We call it the Soul Recall Technique, and by the time this video ends, you will not only understand what it is, you will have already begun it. Stay with me. What science and the ancients both knew and both buried. Let us begin where all real journeys begin, not with belief, but with evidence. In 1935, Albert Einstein, Boris Podolsky, and Nathan Rosen published what they intended to be a refutation of quantum mechanics. They described a phenomenon so strange, so seemingly impossible, that they were certain it proved quantum theory was incomplete. They called it a paradox. History would call it something else entirely. They called it entanglement. Quantum entanglement is the observed, laboratory-verified fact that two particles, once connected, remain in instantaneous communication regardless of the distance between them. Separate them by a meter. Separate them by a galaxy. It does not matter. When one particle changes its state, its entangled partner responds, not after a delay, not through any signal we can detect, but simultaneously, faster than light, across any distance, as though space itself does not exist between them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. He meant it as criticism. But here is what he did not see, or perhaps could not allow himself to see. This is not a glitch in reality. This is a feature. The universe is not made of separate things that occasionally interact. The universe is one unified field of consciousness and information, temporarily expressing itself as apparently separate objects, bodies, and identities. Separation is the illusion. Connection is the ground state. Now hold that understanding and turn with me towards something older. In the Hermetic tradition, the tradition that gave Western civilization its foundational philosophy before it was buried beneath centuries of institutional religion, there is a principle known as the law of correspondence. Its expression is simple, and it is perhaps the most verified spiritual axiom in all of human history. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. The ancient alchemists were not, as history has condescendingly portrayed them, confused proto-chemists trying to turn lead into gold. They were psycho-spiritual scientists working with a precise understanding of how consciousness transforms matter. The lead they were transmuting was the dense, unawakened human ego. The gold they sought was the luminous, awakened soul, fully present, fully sovereign, fully expressed in a physical form. They called this process the Great Work, and they understood something that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to confirm. The human body is not a vehicle for consciousness. The human body is consciousness, densified, crystallized, and encoded with information beyond what any civilization has yet fully mapped. Consider your DNA. Most people know that DNA carries genetic code, the biological instructions for building and maintaining a physical body. What most people do not know is what geneticists have termed junk DNA, the approximately 97% of human DNA sequences that do not code for proteins. For decades, this was dismissed as evolutionary debris, useless leftovers. Then, researchers began looking more carefully, and what they found disturbed many assumptions. This so-called junk DNA is not random noise. It contains extraordinarily complex repeating sequences, fractal patterns, and what some researchers describe as language-like structures, syntax, grammar, the architecture of meaningful communication, embedded in a biological medium. Russian molecular biologist Pyotr Garjayev spent decades demonstrating that DNA responds to coherent human language, to sound, to light, and to consciousness itself, that it functions, in his words, as a biological internet, transmitting and receiving information from a field we do not yet fully understand, but which the ancients called simply the Akasha, the soul record, the cosmic memory, the field in which every experience, every lifetime, every version of every being is permanently, indelibly encoded. And here is what the alchemists understood, what the mystics preserved, and what the soul recall technique is built upon. You have access to that field, right now, through your breath, through your intention, through specific frequencies of awareness that your body is biologically equipped to generate. You are not trying to become something. You are trying to remember something. And the remembering is already in process, whether you are conscious of it or not, because you are here, and you are listening, and some part of you knew to be. Why right now is not coincidence. There are moments in human history that function as thresholds, not metaphorical thresholds. Actual, measurable, cosmologically verifiable transition points, moments when the conditions within and around human consciousness shift dramatically enough that what was previously impossible becomes suddenly available. We are inside one of those moments right now. In the language of ancient Vedic astronomy, a system so mathematically precise that modern astrophysicists have had to acknowledge its extraordinary accuracy, civilizational time moves in cycles called yugas, great ages of expansion and contraction, light and darkness, remembering and forgetting. The Kali Yuga, the age of forgetting, the long night of collective amnesia in which humanity has been immersed, has an ending point. The Mayan long count calendar, which was not a prediction of apocalypse but a map of consciousness cycles, marked 2012 as a transitional axis, not an ending, but the completion of one spiral and the opening of another. The Hopi tradition speaks of the emergence from the fourth world into the fifth, not a geographical migration, but an interior one, a collective awakening so fundamental it restructures what it means to be human. All of these traditions point, with remarkable convergence, to approximately the same window, the window we are now inside. 2026 is not simply a calendar year. In numerological terms, 2026 reduces to the number 10, which reduces further to the number 1. The number of beginnings, of new cycles, of the individual self coming into sovereign alignment with universal law. In astrological terms, 2026 marks significant planetary configurations involving Pluto, the planet associated with transformation at the deepest structural level, fully settled into Aquarius, the sign of collective awakening, humanitarian consciousness, and technological spiritual integration. But beyond any single system of understanding, there is something happening that you can feel without needing to be told. A pressure, an acceleration, a sense that the pace of change has exceeded anything in living memory, and that this acceleration is not merely external, it is happening inside you. Relationships that no longer fit are dissolving. Identities that were built on external validation are cracking. Beliefs inherited from family, culture, and institution that were never truly examined are surfacing to be reviewed, released, or consciously chosen. This is not breakdown. This is excavation. The soul is surfacing. And the world's turbulence is, in part, the friction between what the soul knows to be true and what the conditioned personality has accepted as real. The mystics called this the Great Purification. The alchemists called it calcination, the burning away of what is false so that what is permanent can be revealed. In quantum physics, we might call it a phase transition, the moment when a system, having absorbed sufficient energy, reorganizes itself at a higher level of complexity and coherence. This is the quantum leap, not a metaphor, a reality. And the soul recall technique is specifically calibrated for this moment, for this precise intersection of individual readiness and collective emergence. Because what becomes possible in a phase transition for one aware individual creates ripples through the entangled field for all. When you remember who you are, you become a signal, and signals propagate. Let us now move into the practical heart of this practice. 7 keys to unlock the soul's memory. The soul recall technique is structured around 7 sacred keys. Each key operates on multiple levels simultaneously: the level of consciousness, the level of the energy body, and the level of biology. Because you are not a soul having a physical experience. You are a soul expressing itself as a physical experience. The distinction matters. When we work with these keys, we are not trying to escape the body. We are trying to bring the full depth of the soul into the body, to end the dissociation between who you spiritually are and who you physically live as. This is not transcendence. This is integration. Sacred key. 1. The practice of sovereign witnessing. The first key is the most fundamental and the most consistently overlooked. Most people live their lives entirely identified with their thoughts. The thought arises, "I am afraid." And immediately, seamlessly, the person becomes the fear. Not the one who notices fear, not the one who can observe the sensation of fear arising in the body, moving through awareness and passing away. But the fear itself, as though the person and the emotion are one indistinguishable thing. This identification is the primary mechanism of soul amnesia, because the soul is not any thought. The soul is not any emotion. The soul is not your name, your history, your successes or failures. The soul is the one who witnesses all of those things. The permanent, unchanging awareness in which all experience arises and dissolves like waves in an ocean that remains fundamentally undisturbed. The ancient Vedantic tradition calls this the Sakshi, the witness. The Hermetic tradition calls it the observer self. Modern neuroscience calls it metacognition, the brain's capacity to observe its own processes. And what neuroscience has confirmed is remarkable. When you activate metacognitive awareness, when you observe your thoughts rather than being absorbed by them, you measurably alter the neurochemical environment of your brain. You activate the prefrontal cortex. You reduce amygdala reactivity. You shift from a stress response state to a coherent state. In other words, witnessing is not just spiritually meaningful, it is biologically transformative. The practice of sovereign witnessing is simple and can be engaged at any moment. Instead of "I am anxious," say internally, I notice anxiety arising. Instead of I am confused, say, I notice confusion moving through awareness. Instead of I am sad, say, I witness sadness as a passing state in the field of my being. This is not denial. This is not suppression. It is precise identification. You are not the weather. You are the sky in which all weather moves. Begin practicing this today. Even 1 hour of consistent sovereign witnessing will begin to create new neural pathways, new habits of identity that loosen the grip of conditioned personality and allow the deeper signature of the soul to become more audible. Sacred Key. 2. The activation of cellular memory. Your cells remember what your mind has forgotten. This is not poetry. This is an emerging frontier of biological research. The field of epigenetics, the study of how gene expression is modified by experience, environment, and consciousness, has demonstrated that your DNA carries not only genetic information from your biological ancestors, but experiential information, emotional patterns, survival responses. Even, some researchers suggest, information that cannot be fully explained by the span of a single biological lineage. The body holds memory in its tissues. This is why trauma can live in the hips, in the throat, in the jaw, in places that have no rational connection to the original experience. The body is a living archive, but what the body archives, the body can also retrieve. The second sacred key is a practice of conscious cellular communication. It works with the understanding that your cells are not passive biological machinery. They are intelligent, responsive, and capable of receiving and transmitting information when addressed with coherent intention. The practice: place one hand on your heart. Place the other on your solar plexus, the area just above the navel, which in many traditions is understood as the seat of personal power and deeper ancestral memory. Breathe slowly and deliberately. In for a count of 6, out for a count of 6. As you breathe, hold the following intention, not as a request, but as a recognition. Every cell in this body carries the memory of who I truly am. I give that memory permission to surface now. You are not asking your cells to do something new. You are giving conscious permission for something that is already happening to accelerate. And this permission, given in a state of genuine coherence between intention, breath, and physical presence, has a measurable effect. Research on heart coherence, pioneered by the HeartMath Institute, has demonstrated that when the electromagnetic field of the heart, which is measurably 60 times stronger than the brain's electromagnetic field, enters a state of coherence, it synchronizes with the electromagnetic fields of individual cells throughout the body. In this synchronized state, cellular communication becomes dramatically more efficient. Gene expression shifts toward what researchers describe as regenerative patterns. What the mystics called cellular awakening, biology is beginning to describe as coherence-induced epigenetic optimization. They are describing the same event. Sacred Key 3. The language of the original self. Every soul has a frequency, not a metaphorical frequency, an actual, specific, measurable pattern of vibration that is entirely unique to your particular expression of consciousness. The ancients sometimes called this the true name, not the name your parents gave your body, but the frequency signature that your soul carried into this life. And language, specifically, the use of precise, intentional, self-referential language, is one of the primary tools for either suppressing or amplifying that frequency. Most people speak about themselves in ways that were handed to them. I'm just not a creative person. I've always been this way. That's not possible for someone like me. These are not descriptions of reality. They are frequency suppressors, linguistic patterns that instruct the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the field around the body to maintain a particular, limited configuration. The third sacred key is the practice of speaking from the soul's frequency rather than the ego's inventory. This begins with what we call the original self-declaration, a series of statements not designed to build confidence or positive thinking, but to call the soul's actual nature into active expression. These are not affirmations, they are remembrances. Speak these aloud, slowly, with full presence. I am not what happened to me. I am not what I was taught to believe about myself. I am not my fears, my failures, or my forgetting. I am an ancient intelligence, choosing this human form for reasons greater than I have yet fully understood. I am sovereign. I am present. I am remembering. Notice what shifts in your body as you speak these words. Somewhere beneath the familiar mental commentary, beneath the habitual doubt and qualification, there is a resonance, a recognition. Something in you that knows these words are not aspirational, they are accurate. That recognition is the soul responding to its own frequency. Sacred Key. 4. The art of conscious forgetting. This key surprises many people. Because the soul recall technique is about remembering, so why would one of its core practices be about forgetting? Because you cannot fill a vessel that is already full of something else. The soul's memory, its authentic frequency, its original knowing, is present in you right now. It is not absent. It is buried. And it is buried specifically beneath accumulated layers of identification, story, belief, and narrative that you have been adding to the structure of yourself since the moment you were born into this world. You learned very quickly what was safe to feel and what was not. You learned which parts of you were welcomed and which were unwelcome. You learned what success looked like, what love required, what you had to be in order to belong. And you constructed an identity, a sophisticated, internally consistent, genuinely useful identity, out of those learnings. That identity is not the enemy. It is a brilliant adaptation, but it is a temporary structure, and it has been presented to you and has been experienced by you as permanent, as final, as you. The fourth sacred key is the practice of conscious forgetting, a deliberate, structured releasing of false identifications so that what is real has room to emerge. In the alchemical tradition, this process is called dissolution, the breaking down of fixed structures so that the material can be reorganized at a higher order. In Buddhist practice, it is called shunyata, emptiness, not as nihilism, but as the recognition of spaciousness that makes all form possible. The practice: take a piece of paper. At the top, write, "What I am choosing to no longer be." Below it, write, without censorship, without analysis, every identity, every story, every belief about yourself that feels like a cage rather than a truth. I am not good enough. I am fundamentally flawed. I do not deserve what I want. I am trapped by my past. Write them all, then burn the paper, or tear it into pieces, or dissolve it in water. Use whichever element feels most resonant. This is not theatrical. It is a physical act of conscious completion, and the body's nervous system will register it as such. The physical act of releasing creates a neurological signal. This configuration is no longer being maintained. You are clearing the substrate for what comes next. Sacred Key. 5. The practice of intentional dreaming. The soul does not sleep. When your body rests and your waking mind quiets, the soul moves freely, untethered from the rigid structures of the daytime personality, unencumbered by the constant narration of the thinking mind. Dreams are not random neurological events. They are a language, a dialogue between the depths of who you are and the surface identity that moves through daylight hours, believing itself to be the whole story. Many ancient traditions treated dream work as a primary spiritual discipline. The Tibetan tradition of dream yoga, one of the most sophisticated systems of consciousness work in any tradition, teaches that the dreaming state offers a direct portal to dimensions of self-knowledge unavailable during ordinary waking consciousness. Indigenous wisdom traditions throughout the world have long understood dreams as visits with ancestral intelligence, as guidance from the soul's deeper knowing, as messages from the field of collective consciousness of which each individual is a part. The fifth sacred key is the practice of intentional dreaming, entering the sleep state not passively, but with a specific, conscious request directed to your soul. The practice is done in the last few minutes before sleep, in that liminal zone between wakefulness and unconsciousness. Lie comfortably. Allow the body to soften completely. Begin breathing slowly and deeply, in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, out for 8 counts. Do this until you feel yourself beginning to drift. In that threshold space, speak internally, clearly, calmly, with genuine expectation rather than doubt, the following request. Tonight, show me who I truly am. Show me what I have forgotten. I am ready to remember. Then release it. Do not hold on to it. Place it as you would place a letter in a mailbox, with the knowledge that it will reach its destination and the trust to then walk away. Keep a journal beside your bed. The moment you wake, before checking your phone, before speaking to anyone, before your analytical mind reestablishes its usual dominance, write whatever is present. Images, feelings, fragments of narrative, even wordless impressions. Do not analyze, simply record. Over time, sometimes overnight, sometimes over weeks, a pattern will emerge. Symbols will recur, themes will repeat. And in those patterns, the soul is speaking its own language back to you, translating the infinite into the writable, the eternal into the temporal, the vast into what you can hold in your hands. Sacred Key 6. The frequency of the original wound. Every soul arrives in this life carrying what some traditions call the core wound, a fundamental point of sensitivity, of recurring challenge, of seemingly irresolvable pain that manifests again and again in different costumes throughout a lifetime. In relationships that follow the same painful pattern, in the recurring theme of abandonment, or betrayal, or invisibility, or unworthiness. In the particular shape of your deepest fear, many spiritual teachings suggest that the goal is to heal this wound, to finally, permanently resolve it. And while healing is a noble and necessary process, the soul recall technique offers a more precise understanding. The core wound is not only a wound, it is also a portal. The precise place where you feel most broken, most incomplete, most unresolved. That is also the place where the soul is most actively, most urgently trying to speak. Because the soul communicates through intensity, and nothing in human experience is more intense than our deepest pain. The sixth sacred key is the practice of turning toward the wound, not to analyze it, not to assign blame, not to perform any further narrative about it, but to ask it one precise question, and then to listen. What are you trying to show me about who I actually am? This is advanced work. It requires significant courage and genuine willingness. Do not approach it while in acute emotional crisis. Approach it from the ground of the sovereign witnessing practice that is the first key, from the position of the stable, compassionate observer who can hold space for pain without being consumed by it. What you will often discover is that beneath the wound is a gift, not in the toxic positivity sense of everything happens for a reason, but in the alchemical sense that every shadow contains gold, that the very intensity of your particular pain points, with remarkable precision, toward the particular strength, wisdom, and quality of consciousness that is your soul's unique contribution to the world. The one who was silenced carries the gift of profound, authentic voice. The one who was abandoned carries the gift of radical self-sovereignty. The one who was never seen carries the gift of seeing others with extraordinary depth. Your wound is not proof of your brokenness. It is the geography of your purpose. Sacred Key. 7. The practice of living as if already remembered. The seventh and final sacred key is not a technique in the conventional sense. It is a way of being, a shift in the operating assumption from which you move through every hour of every day. Most people live from the assumption that awakening, wholeness, and authentic self-expression are things they must achieve, future states they are working toward, destinations they have not yet reached, identities they have not yet earned. And this assumption, while deeply understandable, is one of the most sophisticated and persistent mechanisms of soul amnesia that exists. Because the soul is not a future attainment, it is a present reality. You are already what you are seeking, fully, completely, right now. What changes with awakening is not the soul. The soul is unchanging, was never lost, cannot be diminished. What changes is the clarity of your perception of it, the depth of your identification with it, the consistency with which you allow it to move your hands, speak through your voice, and inform your choices. The seventh sacred key is simply this. Begin now living as the person who has already remembered, not performing it, not pretending, not forcing, but genuinely asking, in each moment of choice, what would the remembered version of me choose here? In conversation, how would someone who knows their own soul's worth respond to this? In fear, what would someone who trusts the intelligence of their own being do now? This is not spiritual bypassing. You will still feel fear. You will still make mistakes. You will still have difficult days. But you will be moving through all of those experiences from a fundamentally different ground, from a deeper center, and that difference, practiced consistently, creates a cumulative shift in consciousness that is as real and measurable as any physical training. You are not trying to become someone else. You are practicing being, more fully, who you already are. The practice, to be done now, tonight, and always. We have moved through the 7 sacred keys. Now we bring them together into a single, coherent practice that you can do beginning right now, tonight, and at any point when you feel the need to return to yourself. This ritual draws from several ancient streams: Hermetic inner alchemy, Tibetan visualization practice, and the breath-based consciousness work found in Sufi and Vedantic traditions. It has been condensed into a form that the modern human, living a modern life, can practice without years of preparatory training. Because the soul does not require elaborate ceremony. It requires genuine presence. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed for at least 10 minutes. Sit comfortably, in a chair, on the floor, it does not matter. The only requirement is that your spine is reasonably straight so that energy can flow freely through the central channel. Close your eyes. Step 1. Grounding into the body. Begin by feeling the weight of your body against the surface beneath you. Do not visualize this. Simply feel it, the actual physical sensation of gravity, of contact, of being held by the earth. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, and with each exhale, allow the body to become slightly heavier, slightly more settled, slightly more at rest. This is not a preparation for leaving the body. This is an invitation for the soul to come more fully into the body. The soul cannot be recalled into a body that is held rigid with tension and disconnection. Soften. Arrive. Be here. Step 2. The breath of remembrance. Once settled, shift your breathing to the following rhythm. Inhale slowly for a count of 6. Hold gently for a count of 3. Exhale completely for a count of 6. Hold the emptiness for a count of 3. Inhale again. As you inhale, hold the intention, lightly without strain. I am calling my soul home. As you hold after the inhale, feel the breath as light filling the center of the chest. As you exhale, release. I release everything that is not mine. As you hold the emptiness, rest in the spaciousness. Do not fill it. Simply be in it. Continue this cycle for at least 7 complete breaths. Step 3. The soul call. After the 7 breaths, bring your awareness to a point approximately at the center of your chest, your heart center. Not the physical heart, but the energetic center that corresponds to it. Imagine, or simply intend, if visualization does not come naturally to you, a point of warm, steady light at that center. Not dramatic, not blinding, simply warm, steady, familiar, like a candle that has always been burning, even in rooms you forgot existed. Now, from that center, extend an invitation, not upward into some external, heavenly location. Inward and downward simultaneously, into the depths of what you are. Speak internally or softly aloud if you prefer. Soul, ancient self, the one who chose this life, this body, this particular journey, I remember you. I am ready for you. Return to full wakefulness in me now. Not after I am better, not after I am healed. Now, as I am, in this body, in this life, in this exact moment. Hold this invitation for as long as feels right. It may be 30 seconds. It may be several minutes. There is no correct duration. There is only genuine presence. Step 4. The integration breath. When you feel a sense of completion, and you will know it, not dramatically but quietly, as a subtle shift in the quality of your inner atmosphere, take one final, long, full breath. Draw it all the way in until the lungs are completely filled. Hold it for a moment at the top, then release it slowly, completely. And as you release it, imagine that every cell in your body is exhaling everything that is not the truth of who you are. Outdated beliefs, borrowed limitations, inherited fears, all of it released with that breath, dissolved into the field around you, returned to the earth, completed. Step 5. The return. Slowly and gently become aware of the room around you. The sounds, the temperature, the feeling of your hands resting in your lap or on your legs. Before you open your eyes, make this commitment internally to yourself with whatever sincerity you can access right now. I choose to live this day and every day available to me as one who is remembering. I will not wait until I am certain. I will not wait until I am unafraid. I choose, beginning now, to let the soul lead. Then open your eyes. Welcome back. Or perhaps more precisely, welcome home. The beginning is now. What we have moved through today is not information to be stored and occasionally referenced. It is a living practice, and like all living things, it requires consistent attention to reveal its full depth. The 7 sacred keys are not a program to be completed. They are a way of relating to yourself, a fundamentally different orientation toward who you are and what this life is for. Some keys will resonate immediately and become natural. Others will feel challenging and will require return visits. This is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is a sign that you are touching something real. Because real growth is never comfortable in the way that entertainment is comfortable. It is deeply satisfying, which is a different thing entirely. I want to leave you with something that is not a technique, not a framework, but simply a truth that I want to offer you the way one traveler offers another a light on a dark road. You have never been ordinary. The life you are living, with all of its complications, its apparent failures, its recurring struggles, is not evidence that you are behind where you should be. It is the precise, beautifully engineered curriculum of a soul that is serious about its own awakening. Every relationship that broke you open, every loss that dismantled a version of yourself you had outgrown, every moment of genuine darkness that sent you searching for a light you eventually found, not outside, but within. None of that was accident. None of it was punishment. All of it was architecture. You are here because something in you recognized a signal. That recognition, is already the beginning of the practice. The soul recall technique does not begin with the ritual and end when you open your eyes. It begins the moment awareness turns toward itself and asks, "Who, beneath all of this, am I actually?" That question is not the beginning of confusion. It is the beginning of clarity. And clarity, once invited, is relentless. I invite you now to test what you have experienced in this practice against your own direct experience, not against what you have been told to believe, not against the framework of anyone else's certainty, including mine. The only authority on your own soul is your own awareness. And if what you have found here resonates, if something in you says, "Yes, this is the direction, this is the work I came here to do," then continue. Go deeper. This is only the beginning of a conversation that can go as far as you are willing to go. The soul that you are calling home has been waiting, patiently, without urgency, knowing that you would arrive here exactly when you were ready. You arrived. You are ready. The work continues, and I will meet you in the next depth.